Welcome to Data and Drams. In this interview, I was thrilled to be joined by Sasenka Abeysooriya, who shared his fascinating non-linear journey from the Netherlands to Australia, all the while navigating the professional evolution of project management into the critical field of data governance. As Strategy Director for the University of Queensland and AUSCERT, he leads initiatives that strengthen resilience, foster innovation, and address complex organisational challenges. We dove into his love for cricket and his candid perspectives on how soft skills like listening and empathy are the essential yet often underrated components of true leadership, contrasting them with purely technical abilities and highlighting the invaluable asset of diverse backgrounds in a modern team. Sasenka is a committed advocate for equity and inclusion. He's led transformative programs expanding access to higher education and serves as a non executive director at World Wellness Group, which is an organization focused on equity in healthcare. Tackling the crucial topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion, Sasenka underscores the significance of trust, proper measurement, and representation at the decision-making level for real impact. Over our chat, we enjoyed a delicious Lark Symphony No. 1, which has been crowned Australia's best blended malt at the World Whisky Awards 4 years now in a row. This exceptional whisky is a true Tasmanian icon, celebrated for its poise and incredible balance. Full of life from start to finish, it carries the uncompromised signature style of Lark whisky. Now, you'll also hear us talking about the Whisky Club and Barrel Lane, both incredible membership options to explore new whiskies across the world and throughout Australia. Check them out if you've been wanting to try something new. Sasenka has a unique perspective on career, leadership, and the power of soft skills, which I know will resonate with so many of you, which is why I can't wait for you to hear it. So pull up a chair, pour yourself a drink, and join Sasenka and I for Data and Drams.
Cheers.
Cheers. Now, until I get sponsorship, we're going to stick with the Symphony No. 1, but I know that you did mention the Lark Para 1992.
Absolutely. A
Beautiful.
favorite.
How did that come about? Why is that your favorite? Do you have a story there?
I've got many stories, but my wife and I went to Tasmania and we went to the distillery. We tried some whiskeys.
Yep.
We tried a few. My wife's not a huge whiskey drinker, but she goes, "Ooh, I like this." Oh, it was very nice. And that's when they pulled out the bottle and the price tag. And
Look, it's not bad.
look, I rate Australian whiskey.
Yes.
I think it's worth it. I'm a big fan of Australian whiskeys. I think it's extremely underrated.
I agree.
For context for everyone listening, I'm from the Netherlands. You sort of are forced to drink only the Scottish whiskies, and they do some great whiskies, don't get me wrong. But moving to Australia, drinking more Australian whiskies, the Larks, in the past, the Nant, the Starwards,
Yes.
Morris, beautiful, big fan.
Have you tried Barrel Lane?
I have not. No.
So Barrel Lane, because my partner and I subscribe to the Whisky Club.
Mm-hmm.
And have you subscribed to the Whisky Club?
I have not, no.
Shameless plug. So the Whisky Club is basically a monthly subscription, and they come out with certain whiskey bottles from Scotland, Ireland, Japanese whiskey as well sometimes. And it's usually that specific special edition for that month and for the Whisky Club.
Mm-hmm.
Predominantly what I was finding, though, was obviously it's overseas whiskey. There wasn't a lot of Australian whiskies. And apart from Lark and Starward, didn't really know that we had any, to be honest. And I found Barrel Lane, and Barrel Lane is similar to the Whisky Club, but it's specifically Australian
whiskies. Fantastic.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So every month they bring out Australian whiskies from all over, and they've got a little booklet about that distillery, about the owners of the distillery,
cool.
who works there, the exact cask they use. And I thought it was fantastic. I read it every single time. I love it. I would definitely give that a go. Because
I will look into it.
I'll send you the link. But it's very much, and I think we were talking earlier about this, around the different casks that we like. A lot of them are port. So there's a lot of tawny base.
Fan?
Yeah, a lot of port and a lot of sherry.
Those are the two that I love.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So I think
I will have to look into it.
We'll get you on that, yep.
And if anyone wants to sponsor me, membership,
Yep.
please go for it.
How about we sponsor me first and then...
Fair, that's fair.
Yeah, I'm still yet to get my blue tick. Thank you very much. Awesome. So before further ado, I just wanted to learn a little bit more about your career, obviously how you got to the role that you did, whether it was linear, whether there were curves, winds, whatever, how you got to where you are, a little bit about your history, I'd love to learn more.
Well, look, nothing about my career or my life has been linear, to be honest. As I said, I'm from the Netherlands, born to Sri Lankan parents. So you're in the Netherlands in a cold country and you want to play cricket, right? That's a dilemma by itself. Although, it's a good cricketing nation at the moment. It's good fun. You would wake up on a Saturday morning, open the windows, it's cloudy. You're
Beautiful.
like, oh, that's great. This ball's going to swing. And that's probably what got me to Australia. So I had to do an internship for college. And maybe this is a sign of things to come in my career, but I was thinking, well, why would I look for a company down the road when I can just fly to the other side of the world, go to Australia, I meet the criteria of working for an organization there, whilst I can play cricket. So
flawless plan if I ever heard one.
I thought it was brilliant. Somehow I convinced my parents.
They'd be like, you're going to do it anyway. That's what mine always said.
Yeah. Well, and I did. I played cricket. I did an internship. Came back home. Finished my studies. And I thought, I can do further studies in Australia.
And play more cricket.
Pretty much. I made the mistake of going to Melbourne first. I could have come to Brisbane immediately and played 2 seasons a year.
Yes.
Having said that,
Rookie
love
era.
Melbourne. Love Melbourne. Long story short, I end up here, met the love of my life. I'm in Brisbane. I always liked IT.
Okay.
I was fascinated with computers, thought it was magical. I couldn't code. I hated programming.
You and me both.
Anyway, I couldn't code.
Yep.
So I think, like most people starting with an IT, ended up in desktop support. 6 months in, I'm thinking, surely I can do more than this. and then I struggle. I'm thinking, well, I can't code. I can't program. What do I do? Project management was sort of a career that I was thinking about. So I got qualified, got an opportunity. So I did Prince 2.
Oh, there we go.
It was a while ago. It was before the agile and stuff.
Yeah.
We liked our waterfalls. Realized one thing quite quickly. My technical peers, who were extremely smart and extremely capable, could only give me solutions to technical problems. So they could only give me technical solutions to technical problems. And they couldn't zoom out.
Big picture thing.
They were lacking that a little.
Okay.
And likewise, I would speak to the business and they couldn't articulate what they wanted. And I like to think that I almost found my own role there, which was almost like a translator. I wasn't extremely technical, but I could understand it. And I knew what my colleagues were talking about. And likewise, growing up, my mom had her own company. I started my own little company when I was 16.
Oh, wow. Little entrepreneur.
Yeah, I tried. So I like to think that I understood a little bit better what the business was expecting and wanting. Essentially led me to all those various roles of trying to think a little bit more holistically, think a little bit more longer term, and think outside the box. So at the beginning, I was writing in the project management framework for that organization. That cut me after a while, into enterprise architecture, strategy, governance, transformation, and eventually into data and cybersecurity, mostly data governance.
Love that.
And that was my journey. So starting from a very cold, small country in Europe to sunny Brisbane.
Playing cricket. Do you still play cricket?
I don't. No, I get invited for the occasional charity game and I love it. And I get those butterflies in my stomach. And then the next morning I realize, I don't play anymore.
So your role currently now, can you describe what your day-to-day looks like or what entails a strategy director? Especially, I know you're speaking about governance, but I think there's also that element of cybersecurity in there. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. I usually go in and I assess the current state. Where are we? How mature are we? What are our capabilities? And I draw on a lot of the skills that I've gained over the years, which is a little bit of researching, a little bit of project management, a little bit of enterprise architecture, some strategy and governance, and a bit of change management. I feel like those are my core ingredients that I bring to a role. So I go in, I assess, where are we? How mature are we? How compliant are we? And then I listen. I listen a lot, and I run a lot of workshops to try and understand where are our pain points, what are our pain points, what are the challenges that we have, what capabilities do we not have that are prohibiting us from moving forward. So I assess where we are, and I come up again together with all the people on what is a more desired future state. What does it look like? So unfortunately, I'm just in a lot of meetings. But I do think that a core component is listening. So I sit there listening, and I make sure that whatever we raise as pain points, challenges, that we address those.
I love that. I think the two things you touched on there, I know a lot of people in data or anyone in the tech space, especially wanting to get into leadership, change management and listening are very two underrated areas when you get into that space. That makes, I think, a successful business.
I think I've always said my biggest strength in IT is not being technical.
Yep.
So I listen to the experts in the room. These are all very capable people that understand the problems far better than I do.
Yep.
And I guess I'm more of a facilitator rather than...
Well, you're like piecing things together, you're taking people on a journey. I find the same thing with my role is very much a translator. So I want to be able to turn to my team, understand the problem, understand it from them, but also then turn back to a stakeholder and saying, this is the problem. Not as technically as they've described it, but in a way that a stakeholder understands either what's in it for me, what are the risks, what do you need to know from me now to mitigate whatever is happening. And I think that piece, without that, unless you have a technical person who can bridge both, that skill is very underrated.
Agreed. Absolutely.
You mentioned just around data governance. I think a lot of, from what I've observed anyway, there's a lot of misconceptions around what that is. Do you find that on a day-to-day in the work that you do, that a lot of people see data governance as a certain thing, but your perception of it is quite different?
Yeah, absolutely. Where do I start?
We got all night.
Data governance, let's be honest, it's not a sexy topic. It's not analytics. It's not artificial intelligence. But I think more and more people are starting to appreciate that data analytics, artificial intelligence, you're not going to get any good outcomes if you don't have good data governance. I recently worked together on an article, and we compared data governance.
Just casually.
Yeah, casually, on the side.
Just watch an article, got a verified tick.
That's just the foodie in me. The data governance, we compared it to the vegetables of strategy, technology strategy. Everyone knows it's good for you.
I don't want it.
But you really don't want to. I also like my food. I like my cheese. I prefer that over vegetables. And I think the misconception is that it's seen as more of a compliance thing, regulatory thing, rather than an enabler. And in lots of ways, a communication tool.
I quite like that when you're mentioning it's an enabler to something. I think it's a way to accelerate whatever strategy that you have.
Absolutely.
I think the term data governance, when you look at it, that includes data quality. Without data quality, you don't have an output. You don't have a good output. And I think that's part of the conversation now. I think I saw something on LinkedIn where it was a lot of people think, you get people in to do the AI thing, AI as an output, great, tick. There's so many layers to it. And without good quality data and an overarching data governance of how you manage that, the output's going to be terrible. And I think that's what people need to understand, that yes, it is a vegetable.
Yeah.
You need it though.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone always says garbage in, garbage out, right? With analytics or AI. And I couldn't agree more.
Is there a way that you go about reframing data governance when you identify that people really do need it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's literally not use the words data governance. I just do not talk about data governance.
You talk
No
about
one wants to hear
vegetables.
about I even skip talking about vegetables. So my approach is do not talk about data governance. No one wants to hear about it. And unless you've got a very data literate person that you're talking with, there's almost no point. What I like to encourage people to do is talk about the outcomes. So I'll give you an example. At the University of Queensland, big campus, we've got many buildings, but we are a growing population, growing student population, more staff. And every year there's a new business case to build, a new building. And, at some stage you need to draw the line. And there was one vice chancellor who rightly asked us the question, how are we utilizing our current spaces? So we started this great question. We started this space optimization project of work. And we essentially produced some dashboards to show things like, in the first 2 weeks, a lot of students show up. Afterwards, no one shows up until the last week, or at least less. So if you are scheduling a class with 100 people in a lecture room that can hold 100 people, you don't need them in week 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Online.
They're all online, if they even do that.
If they even
right?
do that. Watch recording. Yeah.
Absolutely. So all of a sudden, you've now opened up a 100-person lecture room in week 3. So there's a good example of that's what they care about. They don't care that it takes a lot of good data quality, that a lot of access to data lakes to be able to ingest and engineer the data in such a way that you can use it. They don't care about that. They care about the output.
Fair.
But
you,
of course, need to then explain the complexity behind that. And that's when I start to talk about data governance. So especially when we have a dashboard and I say, look, 60% confidence in that data. If that's enough for you, go for your life, make decisions. If it isn't, let's talk about data governance. So I delayed the conversation.
So I kind of skirt around the problem. I remember in our first conversation, and you had said that dashboards are crack for
idiots. I'm actually quoting a very respected person in my life, my boss. But I think it's true. It's
a very quick way.
People love a dashboard.
Yep, people love a dashboard.
They don't care what it says.
Or if there's data in there.
If there's data in it, as long as it's a dashboard. Pretty colors. Pie charts. I think that's why our role is also partly being a facilitator.
I agree.
And having those conversations. And I've learned that Aussies love the word journey, taking them on the journey.
Any corporate lingo, taking you on the journey. Let's circle back.
Take it offline.
I just want to be aligned.
Yeah. Pivot here and there.
I need to shift left.
Shift left.
What's your favorite corporate lingo?
I'm a big fan of using let's take it offline because I love efficient meetings.
Yes.
Oh, look, I have a bit of an inside joke with some of my colleagues where we say synergy, but wait, I didn't say it right because you need to do synergy.
No.
Because otherwise it doesn't work. So, yeah.
The other thing I wanted to broach on just around, and we kind of already talked about it around that data governance piece, but we spoke about it earlier just around the soft skills of someone within technology. And obviously yourself, you didn't know how to code. I don't know how to code unless you want a MySpace. The communication aspect, the soft skills of being able to have a conversation, able to talk to a narrative. Do you find that that's a skill that more people need within tech, or?
Absolutely. More and more published papers are out there, even in the world of HR, where they talk about soft skills being the most important attribute or skill that a candidate has. The communication is extremely important, and I sort of touched on it before. To me, a lot of people forget that listening is actually communicating. So listening is very important. I think in our line of work, especially in transformation, in data governance, in cybersecurity, you need to understand what people are grappling with, what their problems are. And the only way to find that out is to listen and to try and understand their viewpoint. More importantly, then, it's to make sure that when you are addressing that, is that you're actually addressing their pain points, because otherwise we didn't listen. So it's not too hard.
It's not an inherent skill.
It isn't.
Not necessarily listening, but I think intentionally listening.
That's a really good point. Intentionally listening. Almost that mindset of I'm going in and I'm going to almost play a game. I'm going to say the least words possible. I've had meetings where a colleague tried to get some information out of a senior colleague, and he would come back and say, he just doesn't talk. He's not saying anything. And I observed him, and he was the one talking. I'm like, well, you're not giving him any opportunity to talk, right? So I took over, and I asked a question, and I stayed quiet. And the guy looked at me and like, you got more questions? I'm listening. And he kept talking, and I got more information. You know, I'll be honest, even in a conversation, you want it to come from both ways. It might feel unnatural, but if that's your objective going in, almost gamified. The less words, the better.
I
From
think
my end.
yeah, I agree. I think that's one area that I know for myself I'm working on. I think it's easier for me to listen in a technical conversation. And I don't want to be the one talking, but I generally will be the 5% at the end to just say, just making sure that we've covered these specific things. That's all I need to do.
Absolutely.
In other conversations, though, where I'm talking to, say, a C-suite or a head of, where it is a more strategic conversation, because I really enjoy the conversation and of that topic, I find myself wanting to talk more. But I definitely recognize that the more I listen, the more I get out, because people love to talk.
Absolutely.
And they love to be listened to. So it's finding that balance between both of being like, I really enjoy this conversation. I want to say all the things.
Yeah.
But actually, the person is going to appreciate that conversation more when you don't talk.
Yeah, and I think it's almost is it a conversation or information gathering exercise? I love. There are a couple of examples that I love. I always use the Nelson Mandela example. In his book, he writes that he remembers as a little kid, he would join his dad to go to those tribe meetings, and Nelson Mandela's dad was the head of a tribe, and he would remember two things really well. They would always sit in a circle, so his dad could always see everyone's face and their reaction. And the second one was he would always talk last. The only thing he would say occasionally was clarify a question or position, and he wouldn't show agreement or disagreement. Because if one person says, yes, I think we should do this, and I agree, the person next to that other person who might disagree might not feel empowered to talk up and speak up. So I love that example. And I think if you go in with the mindset of, I'm here to gather information, speaking last is really powerful. And I really like the other example. A book just came out, and I'm reading it as we speak. Jacinta Ardern, A Different Kind of Power, an amazing leader. In her book, I'm not there yet, but I can predict that it is all about listening with empathy. And for me, I summarize it as always ask why. Why is someone complaining about this? Why is someone saying this? And try and understand the why. And you'll be listening slightly differently.
I love that. I do think it is very interesting when we talk about empathy, because I've found that empathy doesn't inherently come to everyone. I think there is a vast difference between having empathy or being empathetic and being sympathetic. And there are different leaders who show different sides of that. I think I'm very empathetic, and I can, with my team, if they're feeling a certain thing, sometimes I will harbor that, and I've learned to kind of step back from that. There are times where I wish I could be more sympathetic, so that there is a bit of a barrier there. But at the same time, I think having a strong empathy makes you more emotionally aware, and those nuances in those conversations to listen or read body language is an inherent skill I think should be learnt, or at least, I guess, tried to, because ultimately at the end of the day, the less words you say, the more empathy that you show, people are willing to communicate and provide their problem statement.
Absolutely. We're humans with feelings. I had lots of feelings.
Who would have thunk?
So, there's only one way to acknowledge that, to allow for that, and then to still come up with productive outcomes.
Yeah. Do you find in your conversations going towards that soft skills element, we spoke earlier just around university and people coming through, when you're interviewing, do you find yourself reaching for people who have the degree, or is it nowadays more so looking at what other skills do you have?
I must be honest. I usually skip over the degrees.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I know that is not a popular thing to say because it's not normalized
Paid a
just
lot
yet.
of money for that.
I agree. And I'll
Wow.
justify it with, especially in data, especially in cyber. I think especially with the issue of not having enough people in our fields, maybe data less so than cyber.
Yeah.
We need to give more people opportunities. People that are keen to transition in their careers. And we need to be open to that. In my data governance team, I'll list off a couple of good career transition case studies. I had a veterinarian.
Love that.
Who had amazing transferable skills to data ethics.
Yeah.
Has gone on to do amazing things now in a director role at KPMG. I had a journalist who has even written piece for CNN, who beautifully landed into our data awareness campaign side of things.
Of course.
We had a ecologist who had such great attention to detail. She became our project coordinator. She's doing amazing, running her own data firm at the moment. I've got a research assistant that I said, well, while we're doing all these cool and wonderful work, we're actually setting the standard here. Let's start writing some white papers and get into peer-reviewed journals. So we work together with an academic. He's now doing his PhD in Edinburgh. So these are all people that weren't doing data governance.
At all. So it didn't come from a tech background.
Absolutely not. We had in my team, so I think in year 2 or 3, we had about 8 people in data governance team. One had an IT degree. Yeah. And it wasn't me.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And I think we need to be more open for that. I think you need to look at people's drive, people's motivations. I love quoting other people's work here and referring to inspirational people to me. Michelle Obama. In her book, Becoming, she writes about this scenario in which she was asked to help in a law firm to identify the issues around the lack of black people in their firm. And she looked at the recruitment policies, and essentially it said, must come from an Ivy League school. So those are 8 universities that black people probably can't go to because it's too expensive.
Yeah.
So
there's your problem.
And in her book, she, obviously far better and more eloquently than I ever can, explains how we should be measuring people on the barriers that they've overcome.
Mm-hmm.
A person from a diverse background will have had to do more to come to the position that they're in now than the average person.
Yeah.
So they automatically are far more resilient. They have so much more baggage, so they have so much more experience.
Oh.
And life has hit them in different ways. And you're going to get a really talented person in them. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to, as leaders, we need to start taking that topic a little bit more serious, not the tick the box, DEI
yeah,
thing.
Which is great to have.
Absolutely. Very important.
But not as a tick in the box.
Yeah, no, let's actually do something about this. So me not looking at your degrees, I feel like the start of that, at least, in a very small way.
Fantastic. So if anyone obviously were to apply to be in your team, how, for you, would you go about nurturing that safe place for people to actively apply? Because I think at the moment, if we're going away from the traditional degree, obviously it's still great to have. For me, I think there are degrees that I would hope some professions have, like a doctor or a heart surgeon. I would hope that you did training so that you can actively do that. There is more degrees now that I think you can learn from just hands-on experience, from transferable skills. So how do you go about nurturing an environment that it is going to be more so skills across the board, including soft skills, not necessarily just technical?
I think it's a mixture of a few things, and I couldn't agree more. I don't want a doctor to treat me without a medical degree. So there are absolutely exemptions to the rule, even the rules that I set. I think it's a few things. So for me, the position description and the advertisement that you put out, it needs to clearly not be one of those copy-paste ones from your HR department. You need to put a little bit more thought and effort into those things, into what am I actually looking for. And then I think the other part is, in data governance as an example, people still think that it's a technology issue.
Okay.
And there will be a silver bullet technology solution out there that's going to fix your data governance.
Of course. To I'm paying.
Right? Yeah. And then the vendors will happily tell you that it works that way. I think if you have a good understanding of data governance, you'll know that it's actually a people problem with a process element to it that needs to be addressed, and then technology at the end. So the roles that you start to recruit for need to reflect that. And that's why most of the roles that I hired for in the data governance team was very much focused on soft skills. So change and comms people, facilitators, coordinators, just people with good human skills.
Yeah.
So I think an element of you need to start thinking a little bit harder about, well, what are my immediate objectives? What is the problem I'm actually trying to address? Because if I hired just another IT person for a data governance journey, I wonder if I've had the same results and if I would have been able to achieve some of those objectives.
That is really interesting. I think selfishly, I want to ask a question. I don't know if anyone's got an answer. I don't know the specific stats, but there is a statistic out there where you obviously mentioned the job ads that are provided. Majority of women will look at that, and if they don't, and for me personally, if I don't hit 10 out of 10 things, or at least 9 out of 10 things, I go, oh, probably not for me. Whereas a lot of men are just like, oh, hit 2, great, I'll apply because I'll learn there.
I'm one of them.
Really?
I've had this conversation with my wife and many other colleagues and friends around me, and I agree. I see a position description, I see 10 dot points. If I had at least 6 of them, I'll have a crack.
Really?
But I know that my wife probably wouldn't. I think I don't know how long we have on this podcast, but that's going to go very deep.
I was going to say, we'll settle in, I think.
A very important topic. I do think that those position descriptions are so specific often that you probably attract a certain type of person to apply for that role.
Correct.
And I think that's probably what I mean with you need to take some time and effort in drafting those position descriptions. And rather than dot points with skills that you want to see.
Like a tick box.
Yeah, it's actually it's almost like scenarios. It's almost, I need these types of behaviors and motivations in a person rather than hard skills.
I would be more inclined, I think, if I were to see a job description like that demonstrated or articulated behaviors or a scenario to be saying the day in the life might look like this, or these are some problems that you might need to solve during the job, rather than saying you need prints, PMBOK, you need all of these tick box. I go, oh, I've only got one of those. I would generally go through and go, oh, okay. And I've caught myself before taking a screenshot of that job application, highlighting things I don't have, going, need to put it on the list to be able to apply for a job like that in the future. Rather than saying, even if I have none, I've got the experience and I know that once I'm in the door, my personality really helps in those positions.
And I guess there are 2 elements to that as well. The idea of still applying and then articulating how you would get around not having certain experiences, I think is a good approach. But on the flip side, and I've got the benefit of being on the other side of the table, right? So having seen those PDs that we put out, I know that the average person just grabs the PD that was provided to them and doesn't make any changes. So it's going to have things in there that you probably don't even need. And I think that's just the reality.
I guess you're ultimately at the end of the day, you're saying that take it with a grain of salt and apply anyway.
I think so. Absolutely.
I know we spoke about DEI previously around a lot of companies are doing it as a tick in the box and going, oh, I guess we have to do that too. What makes up a successful DEI strategy?
What's important for me? So I love this topic, especially because it's such an unpopular topic at the moment in some countries. So that's why I will scream it even louder that I'm very passionate about this topic. A lot of people, they will start looking at, okay, what activities do we run? What things do we measure? And they look at it from that perspective.
Okay.
And whilst important and whilst that is an equally good effort, I think for me, it's more around trust. It's trust before data. So before we focus on any metrics, it's how do we earn the trust of people that have been marginalized historically?
Mhm.
In Australia, with our Indigenous communities, we make so many promises and we don't deliver on them.
Yep.
So what can we do to earn that trust? And then I think the second step is, and I love looking at Scandinavia as an example.
Love Scandinavian policy.
It's legislated, it's in policy.
Mhm.
You need to reflect diversity in governance structures,
Yeah.
on boards and committees. And I think that's probably the only way you're going to make some meaningful change. Look at South Africa. Just after the apartheid ended, there were quotas. And I think in some cases that is required. I'm not saying that is the right solution for Australia. But if you want to make an actual change, a meaningful change, you need to start taking it seriously and look at people at the decision-making table. And people on the decision-making table need to start reflecting what community actually looks like in the community that you serve.
I agree. I do find that, for me at least, some organizations feel like DEI is very much a campaign that we had to get our KPIs. If we do X, if we put this luncheon on, if we do this panel, tick, 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 rather than understanding or taking the time as a leadership group to say, actually, we're not going to put forward any of these panels, and maybe they will, some workshops. We're actually going to have an offsite with leadership to truly understand the problem and then come back and understand maybe how we roll out a new strategy. Not just, oh, DEI is coming up or International Women's Day. How can you, it's not going to be solved by one group, but is there a better way that we go about those programs? Because right now it does very much feel in a lot of organizations that it's just another campaign that they need to hit a target.
Flip the mentoring programs.
Mm-hmm.
Very often you go into organizations, mentoring programs, and it's the people on the ground actually doing the work, getting mentored by, let's just say, a white man that went to a private school and became a partner at a major consulting firm because their father worked there and got an internship. If we were to take that stereotype, what are we going to learn? I'm obviously being a little bit extreme here, and of course there's a lot to learn. But what I mean with flipping the mentoring programs is those people, those decision makers, now actually get mentored and listen to the people on the ground from diverse communities and actually start to listen. What are some of their barriers? What are some of the barriers they had to overcome? How do they look at problems, which is completely different to the other average person? I think that's when you start to influence people at the top to also start thinking differently or even start to appreciate that there is a thing called difference. And that is okay. That's a good thing. Diversity is extremely powerful. It's also not just in looks or ability or where you come from. It's also diversity in thought, right? And the more you've overcome, the more barriers you've had to overcome, the more experience you had, that is just diversity in thought. Those people are going to bring very different perspectives to solve your problems.
I think it's a great idea to flip that because at the end of the day, we talked about just listening. Having someone in that position to just listen, take time out to actually understand their colleagues and the people who are the backbone of the business. how are they going about their day to day, understanding why.
Yeah.
That would be so powerful,
Mm.
more so than any mentoring or no or cookies.
Absolutely.
I love that. I think we should do more of that.
Let's do it.
Are you seeing any emerging trends in the DEI space, or I
Mm.
guess have you seen any companies that are doing it really well?
I do see it a lot, although we have a lot more to learn in Australia.
Mhm.
I see some good examples in the Indigenous space where it is actually about listening and having Indigenous elders on committees, on boards, and getting their perspectives. There's a very good example. It's actually an Indigenous-owned company called Bidam Solutions. And even their security operations center is built on Indigenous principles.
I like it.
And I wish I had learned about this much earlier, but these principles are very similar to the Nelson Mandela example. They all sit in a circle and they use some of their techniques to detect and respond to cyber threats. It's fascinating and it's just so good. And I wish that more people were open to listening to some of these principles and ways of working. I want to say that if we use AI responsibly, then I could see some opportunities there as well. Now, we've heard the nightmare scenarios around, Amazon and their recruitment and only hiring white people
Mhm.
or white male, really, because that was what the model was trained. So if we can actually harness the potential of AI, I think we can do some good things because we always say, take the names off and genders off resume as well. These types of technologies can actually help us in looking at behaviors and motivations in the cover letters a little bit better than some of us humans can because we're just easily influenced by other things otherwise.
I do think that's really interesting. So it's something I haven't thought about in a very long time. So I remember when I was first applying years ago, and someone was giving advice around don't put your photo in because immediately don't want to see how old you are. That was one thing. Then it was names.
Mm.
I know international students change their names, their first
Mhm.
names or last names,
Mhm.
just to make sure that they get through. They have an English name. And I do wonder if that's still very prevalent. And I think to your point, if we train an AI model with empathy in a way that doesn't have bias,
Mm.
because ultimately it does because it's trained by us, maybe it would be more beneficial. Because at the moment, no one can tell me that they go through a resume and there isn't some unconscious bias when they come across a name that they can't understand. How do we get better at doing that? And maybe it is through AI because it's neutral.
I think there's potential. I would love to speak to someone who's actually in this space and studying this space.
Mm.
I think what happens when you start taking away names and photos is you almost, as the applicant, you lose part of your identity.
You do.
And that is something we should actually be proud of and embrace. And then you lose the I in the right. We're not being inclusive.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I think if we do a mixture of starting to put different kinds of job ads out, where we care less about certain skills but more about motivations and behaviors that are expected,
Yeah.
and we're able to train AI and empathy. I don't know if that goes hand in hand, but if we could, hopefully one day, if we could train those models to start looking at those things rather than names, genders, faces, potentially we'll have a much better future ahead of us.
I agree. That's all of my questions. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that you're doing that you're excited about? Anything outside of your role that you're excited about?
I'm currently involved with a charity organization called World Wellness Group, and staying with the theme of diversity, equity, inclusion. They provide health services to multicultural communities, especially those with confusing legal status. So refugees, as an example. I think it's just such a phenomenal organization. And even looking at some of these organizations, I just see a pipeline of talent.
Yeah.
This organization and the people that they work with, in the average Aussie's eye, they see an Uber driver but actually they're a neurosurgeon in the country of birth, right? Or phenomenal data scientists that are now doing paper routes. And sometimes it's as easy as that, just looking at the people around you, the organizations around you, and actually going, well, what's hiding underneath the bonnet there? And that's why I like the focusing on those people that are transitioning in their careers. Like, there's some very impressive people out there that we're not selecting.
What is the barrier to entry? Because if someone has that much experience and they're going to be incredible in the workforce, what is the barrier to entry for them when they're going into a role that doesn't talk to all of the experience that they've had?
Unfortunately, I assume most of it is legal status, so no working rights, which obviously is problematic. That's a whole topic of itself. I assume there should be ways around those things.
Yeah.
But I do think Australian culture is different. I know that the way I applied for a job in the Netherlands is slightly different to Australia. It's similar-ish as to Western countries, but that is not always the case for other countries. So I think there's a little bit of coaching that's required in terms of these are some of the things that we look at in Australian firms. A very good example, which is probably less about application process, is people in Holland. If you give us a compliment sandwich, we get offended.
Really?
Yeah, why do you give me a compliment to then tell me something I didn't do right and follow up with a compliment? Just tell me where I can improve. Whereas in some countries, don't be that blunt, right?
I had to think back what a compliment sandwich was, and then I was like, oh no, we call it a shit sandwich.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Because the negative bit is in the middle.
Yep.
So this is an example of cultures are different, and there are those barriers, and there are language barriers.
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers. It's just I wish I did, but I do. I want to encourage people to start thinking a little bit differently. Look at people a little bit differently.
I love that. I think it's a lesson to everyone, really. I think there is something to be said around revisiting your core beliefs and understanding where your subconscious bias might have come from, or if it's still lingering there, if you find yourself going, oh, why is that? Is it your immediate thought, or is it something that you've been pre-trained through growing up? I think if we can look at that first, and again, if there is those mentoring sessions around listening and really understanding, that will challenge some of that bias. But I think the more we do that, the better we become, and the better we're able to involve people more so who are absolutely equipped for the role. And I'd love to see more of that.
Same here.
Is there anything that you are wanting to learn? Is there anything you're learning right now or wanting to in your spare time, obviously?
It's a good question.
Doesn't have to be tech related.
Look, I love food. We touched on this before this. I love food, and I've definitely made it a hobby of reviewing the places I go to, which is a lot of fun. I am trying to cook more. I work with a lot of Gen Z at the moment, so I'm in my cooking era. And I really hope to do more of it. So I feel sometimes you won't get some of your creative juices flowing at work, but hopefully I'll get them flowing in the kitchen.
I find it's especially cooking, personally, but anything to do with your hands gives me the ability to have some white space to think more creatively outside. It may not be in that moment, but for some reason it just quiets everything, creates a section in my brain that gives me later that I'm like, oh, I guess it's quiet.
Yeah.
I did clay pottery, I think a few months ago. And I cannot tell you what I was thinking during that time. There was nothing. I was just focused on doing that. And I had so much fun. And that weekend, I just felt lighter. I felt like I had more ideas. I know immediately I came home and I was writing stuff down for the podcast. And I think we need to give ourselves that space. A lot of people just go, I'm too busy.
I'm bad at it too.
Everyone is.
Yeah.
I think we get caught up in the day-to-day of it.
Yeah.
But if we do take that step back, I think it does lead itself to more opportunity and more growth individually. but also more creative ideas that we can bring to work.
Agreed.
I love that. I'm going to end on one question that you did send me. And you said...
What did I send?
You said...
I'm mildly worried now. Like, how many whiskeys was I in when I sent that question?
Look, I don't know. What has whiskey taught you about leadership?
Oh. Okay. I can do this.
Do you want another one?
I might have to.
Yeah.
So for me, the character, the tones, the memorable bits of whiskey come from the barrel.
Okay.
Before we started filming, I talked to you about my mom. She loved her sherry. And whenever I have a sherry cask whiskey, I just remember home. I smell home, and I love it. And I think translate that to the corporate environment, the leadership example. People will remember how you were as a leader based on how you made them feel, how well you listened. And those are the characteristics that will define you as a leader.
I love that.
So I'm actually kind of proud of that answer. It's mildly on the spot.
I'm probably going to quote you now.
So I think it's the barrel that makes the whiskey amazing. We as leaders need to create an environment that people feel that all the notes are hitting just right.
Someone's going to quote you now and be like, you need to
Put it
be
on a
the
t-shirt.
barrel. Yeah.
Yeah. Be the barrel. I love that.
Oh, with that, that's all my questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
I really appreciate it. And I'm going to put all the links down, including your foodie Instagram.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, follow, subscribe. Yeah.
You're in your foodie era.
Absolutely.
We
Foodie
love
era.
Thank
you so much.
And that's it for this episode of Data and Drams. A huge thank you once again to Sasenka for joining me and for sharing his career and leadership insights. If you love this episode, I'd be thrilled if you took a moment to leave a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also connect with me on Instagram and LinkedIn over at Data and Drams for episode updates and my latest whiskey recommendations. Join me next time as we dive into another amazing career journey over a delicious drink. Until then, Slanjiva.